Welcome to Critical DMG, a podcast about two best friends who might have grown up but never grew out of their love for the Game Boy. We will be playing and reviewing every North American title released on Nintendo's original handheld console. This is episode 5. I'm Tony, and somebody please take me out of this ball game.
Oh, and I'm Jeff, and today we're talking about the last release title for the Game Boy, and we're talking about baseball. So I think I can kind of get where Tony's head's at with this, but we'll get into that later. I think first though we have a quiz question from last week.
So, our quiz question from the tennis episode was that while we were talking about the ports of the tennis game on Game Boy going to other systems, it wasn't just Nintendo's own hardware that they brought the game to, and it actually showed up in some of their software. A very famous example of this was an embedded version of tennis and some other early Nintendo games into which title that was released on the GameCube. Jeff, do you know this one?
I think so, but what's the answer?
It's Animal Crossing.
Yep, I remember, or I thought I remembered reading about that, that you could play tennis in Animal Crossing, but I wasn't 100% sure on that.
Yeah, they were like little collectible versions of the NES games that you could get, and so they were like little emulated versions of these games inside of Animal Crossing, and you could collect them and then play them in your Animal Crossing game. There were apparently 17 of them.
Wow.
That were released across the different versions of Animal Crossing that were made at the time. Tennis was actually not the only game, but one of the only games that was available in every iteration of these emulated Nintendo classics.
That's cute. I like that.
Yeah, it's cute.
That's a nice little Easter egg.
Right.
So I think by your intro, I know your answer, but quick impression, should someone dust off the Game Boy, dust off the baseball, and play it today?
No, this game is trash.
Yeah, I agree. No, don't bother. But we'll, I'm sure, give more opinion on that later. But before we do that, give us a little bit of a back-of-the-box read. What Nintendo said to get us to play this game.
Okay, back of the box. Baseball, in the biggest letters that you have ever seen it in. Strategy, skill, and determination. It takes all three to win at baseball. Choose a starting pitcher from your bullpen. Mario is an old favorite. Hurl fastballs past the batter. If he connects, your outfield backs up to snag a fly. A sturdy infield backs you up on grounders and pop-ups. 3 outs later, and your team is up. Take a strike to feel out the pitcher, then drive a long one. It's a home run. Challenge the Game Boy or use the video link cable to take on a friend in realistic baseball action. There's that video link cable again. I told you I was pretty sure that it's on most of these original launch titles for the Game Boy.
Yeah, so it's baseball. I did find it funny. In the manual, it does not give any background on what baseball is. So in the tennis manual, it gives you kind of like a quick background introduction to tennis. The baseball manual, they just straight into it, assume you know what baseball is, and yep, it's baseball, and that's it. I did want to also, I guess, do a little, preamble. Like I said in tennis, typically sports games are not my favorite. Baseball specifically, which might be shocking to some people, I've always found it extremely boring. So I played baseball for a good portion of my life. Pretty much as soon as I could start playing baseball, my dad had me fielding and all of that fun stuff. Mm-hmm. I played through high school.
You did?
Yep. Could have played in college, at a small college, but I was never good enough to actually make a career out of it or anything, so I didn't do that. I've watched all different types of baseball from Little League up to the pros, and yeah, I've always found it a bit boring. If it's something any of our listeners, if you're really big into baseball, I apologize, but that combined with the sport game aspect doesn't set this up well for me. But
does not bode well for baseball on the Game Boy.
It does not. Is there anything else you want as far as like background or anything else going on with that? Or do you want to start talking about mechanics?
No, I don't think that I have too much to go over on this one. I do have a lot to say, not about the background information, so I think we just need to get into this one.
All right, let's do it. So, Nintendo didn't feel like it was necessary to explain baseball, which I find interesting. I feel like that's definitely a aspect of the time. The 80s, 90s, I think both in Japan and in the US, baseball was extremely popular, and everyone kind of just knew about baseball and what it was. But essentially, you have two teams of 9 active players. One team is fielding, one team is batting. Batting team is trying to score runs by going around the field. And when you get 3 outs, you switch sides. So the fielding team is now the batting team, vice versa. And yeah, so that's very top level baseball rules.
Quick and dirty baseball rules.
Baseball has a ton of random, intricate things that can make it really confusing, but that's the kind of broad scope of what baseball is, and this game is exactly that. You choose what team you want, you choose who you want to be your starting pitcher, and then you're just into the baseball. Yeah, that's about it.
It really is that simple.
Yeah, and there's not a whole lot as far as mechanics and things like that go. As the pitching team, you can move the pitcher around a little bit on the mound to kind of adjust where you're going to throw the ball, inside, outside, whatever. You can change the speed of the ball a little bit and do a few things like that, but you don't have a whole lot of options as far as, some of the newer baseball games. You can kind of select what kind of pitch you want and how much spin you want to put on it, all of that fun stuff.
Yep.
You don't quite have as much flexibility with that, but you do have some.
I think one of the only things that I found to be maybe something that I wasn't expecting from a game as simple as this one was the fact that you're allowed to put in a relief pitcher or swap out your batter. Other than that, there's very little that you do to differentiate one pitch from another or one swing from another.
Yeah. I did find some of the mechanics that they added to be kind of interesting, and I wasn't expecting them. Apparently, every player has stats.
They do.
Yeah, if you go into the manual.
Only in the manual.
Yeah. You can't see it in game, but yeah, in the manual, they all have different stats on how well they hit, how well they do certain things, pitchers, how well they pitch. There is a difference between the infielders and the outfielders as far as how far they can throw, how fast they can throw, and things like that, which is kind of interesting that they put that in there. But really, gameplay-wise, it's you're not experiencing a lot of that as you're actually playing the game.
No.
It's just in the background.
You would not even really notice it because at any one time, even if you were able to somehow figure out which player on your team had those good stats, you are never actually controlling that player at the pivotal moment that you need to be someone that can throw fast or swing hard.
Exactly, yeah. It's kind of set up for you like baseball is. You go through your lineup, which you can't change, and yeah. But that's kind of like a brief background on like how you're playing. It's pretty straightforward, especially if you are familiar with baseball. How far did you get? Did you finish a full game? So one game is 9 innings typically. Did you play a full game, or how was your playing experience?
I said in the last episode on tennis that it was my worst showing in a game that we've played so far. I was wrong. Baseball easily topped that. I played for about 20 minutes, figured I had seen everything that there was to see, was miserable pretty much the entire time, and lost in a spectacular blowout. So I closed everything and went about the rest of my day.
Yeah, so I played half a game and then one full game. probably about an hour or so to finish my full 9-inning game. I think I lost 6-2 or something like that. I was just excited that I scored anything. And yeah, I think early on, I thought about doing the same thing, about just closing it and being, thinking I've seen enough and I'm done with this. At one point, I actually looked in the manual and thought that I was doing something wrong. I was like, this feels so clunky.
I did the same thing.
Yeah, I was like, it just feels so clunky. I must be doing something wrong. I must not understand something about the game. And no, it turns out I understood it well enough. There were a few things that the manual did teach me, like you can bunt. I don't know how to do that.
I never figured it out either. It was I saw, okay, I'm taking over this conversation right now because I have so much to say. I just,
All right.
I have so much to say about how frustrating this was as a mechanical experience. I went to the manual because I started playing and it was so frustrating. It was even worse than tennis. And I went to the manual thinking, okay, maybe I'm just not getting it. Maybe because they don't explain any of the controls or anything in the game, you have to go to the manual to find out what you actually need to be doing.
Yep.
And they kept making comments about things like sacrifice plays and hitting the ball as a bunt instead of a swing and all this other stuff. And I was like, but how? Where, like, what buttons are you telling me to press?
Yeah.
And I did everything I could think of. I tried pressing both of the face buttons at the same time. I tried different combinations of like movement on the controller or on the Game Boy's D-pad and face buttons to try and make something happen. And no matter where I positioned myself as a batter, no matter what buttons I press, how late or early I decided to swing at any given pitch, I never was able to bunt the ball. I was never able to kind of control anything about the direction of the hits. I don't know about you, but in the time that I played, admittedly as short as it was, neither myself or the computer team got a single home run. So
Okay.
I don't know. How was that for you?
Yeah, so the manual says if you press the A button, the batter will swing.
Yep.
By pressing quickly, a batter bunts,
Okay.
I don't know if that means you mash it or that makes no sense to me.
I guess I never tried mashing it.
I never got it to work. Also, kind of back to the topic of assuming people know what baseball is, they use a lot of jargon, like you said. They use a lot of like sacrifice fly, sacrifice blah, 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 like bunt. For anyone who's not familiar, bunting is, if you've ever seen baseball, it's when the batter doesn't take a full swing. They essentially just kind of put the bat out in front of the plate and let the ball hit it. There are reasons that you do it, but yeah, it's not a full swing. It's something else. They just assume people know that. But yeah, I could never figure out how to do that. I did get one home run.
Nice.
That's the only reason I scored.
Hey.
I think the computer also got a home run off of me, so that's not great. But yeah, I agree. I could never really figure out the timing for batting. So typically you can kind of tell in real life and also in a lot of newer games, if you're swinging too early or too late, you can kind of tell based on where the ball goes. If you're a right-handed batter and you swing early, it's going to go kind of to your left. And then the later you swing, the further right it's going to go, if that makes sense. So I could never really figure that out. There are a lot of times I feel like I timed it correctly and it just
Me too.
did not work, or yeah, it was not the best experience as far as batting goes. I'm sure if I played more, I would potentially get better at it. But after probably an hour and a half of playing, I still feel like I didn't really understand it. I got better at pitching and kind of controlling that.
I did too. I actually was much better at pitching after I read through the manual. I was able to pretty consistently strike the computer players out, not like smoking through them where they were never hitting the ball even once, but I was doing much better pitching than I was batting. we'll have to save the outfield talk for later.
Yeah, so that's one thing that I did have a note on that I wanted to ask you about. So
Okay.
the fielding, you have control over a player or players. I couldn't really tell how it was working.
You have tentative control
Yes.
over a player. I can tell you how it was working because I was miserable at it and I was trying so hard to figure it out. So I'm commandeering this conversation again.
All right.
To talk about this because most of my notes are about
Real
the fielding.
quick.
So
Yeah, so you do have control, but there is also automatic fielding, quote unquote. I will very much so put that in quotes. The manual even says that it's not that good.
Right.
So you can just let the computer move your fielders, and it should work, but it always felt clunky, but then it didn't feel any better to move them myself. So with that, what do you have to say about it, Tony?
Okay, so my notes for this one are like 60 to 70% expletives. So I'm going to keep it family friendly for our lovely show here. The automatic fielding, not reliable. The biggest problem that I had with the fielding just in general was the fact that the camera moves at a glacial pace. So if the computer players hit the ball in basically anything other than the direct infield area, you would not be able to figure out which of your outfield players were currently being controlled. You couldn't follow the ball because the ball was moving faster than the camera. So it was basically impossible to do anything other than hope that you were running the right player in the right direction to go get the ball. And then you would have to do your best to try and throw it back to whatever base. And it always seemed like the ball never really went as fast as it needed to get back to the infield and actually get to a base with any kind of speed that would let you tag a computer player out. And it was so frustrating. I was trying so hard to get a bead on which player I was at any time when I was fielding, and it never seemed to be the right one. If you could pick, which I know that a lot of like newer baseball games will let you do, even if they just allowed you to press, I don't know, say like the select button, and it would put a little arrow or something over the player that you were currently like fielding as, that would have been amazing, because at least then I would have known, I'm currently the second baseman. That's not going to work. I need to be someone way in the outfield. Select. And then I could rotate through my players or whatever. But that cost me more runs for the computer player than probably anything else, because I was never able to get to the ball fast enough to get anybody out. Even if I was watching the ball sail off into right field or whatever, it didn't matter. Whether I left the automatic fielding on or I tried to take over manually and do it myself, it never mattered. The hit detection on picking up the ball was clunky and awful. Throwing to another base was slow and awful. Like, you can't run, you can't dive. It just, fielding was a mess, a nightmare.
The first, my first bullet point that I put down was brutally slow gameplay. And most of that was once you finally field the ball from the outfield and throw it back to the infield to kind of reset to go to the next pitch, it just took forever. It felt like an eternity for the ball to get back to a base, to then have to wait for a bit to then go to the next pitch. It just was brutally slow. And yeah, I agree with you. There were a lot of times when I think you were kind of controlling all of the players generally.
Yes, it felt like that, because you would move in one direction and it would almost look like the entire team would move as a wave. Yeah. And the game was like making up its mind about which player it needed to give you manual control over at that time.
Yeah, it felt really clunky. To your point, if there was a ball hit to the outfield, it felt like if you just let the auto fielding take care of it, the player wouldn't move until it was like kind of in the screen, which felt weird. But then, if you manually controlled it, sometimes you would just be running in the wrong direction or like not, taking a proper line to actually field it. And yeah, it just all around just did not feel good.
And it wasn't auto throwing. So it's not like if you let the fielders go get the ball and you didn't manually control them, they would automatically throw the ball to whatever base they felt was the most efficient way to get the whatever computer player was running to that base out. It was just, oh, okay, well, it picked up the ball. Now I have to remember to throw it to whatever base, which isn't like a huge deal, but it's just kind of jarring to go, okay, I'm going to let the computer handle this. I can't see the player that they're controlling. I can't see the ball. The camera isn't aimed on that part of the field. Oh, do they have the ball? Do they not have the ball? Oh, they do? Okay, well, what button is it on the D-pad to throw to second base again or third base or home?
Yeah. I did find the use of the D-pad for the bases. I did like that. I
did too.
Essentially, if you have your baseball diamond, you would press the direction on the D-pad that corresponds with the direction, like what base you're throwing to. So if you hit right and then A, I think, or B, whichever, if you hit right, it would go to first base. So down would be home, up, second base, left, third base. So that
very intuitive.
Yeah, that was pretty. I did like that. It also was a bit frustrating when either you were letting the computer like auto run and pick up the ball, or if you were running yourself, you would have to pick up the ball, push the other direction on the D-pad to throw. So there were multiple times when I would be running to a ball. I thought I had picked it up, but I hadn't yet. And so then I had switched directions on the D-pad to throw the ball.
Oh my.
And then I ran in the opposite direction of the ball. And so then I had to run back. So it was, while I did like that, and I think that's probably the best way to have those controls, there were definitely some times when, just the fielding and all of it just felt really poor because, like, I wouldn't have the ball yet, or my player was just running in the wrong direction or not running. And all in all, not fun gameplay. And definitely that, plus how brutally slow it was, led me to really contemplate not finishing my game. But then I stuck it out.
One thing that I encountered, which I don't know if you did at any time when you were batting, was I don't think that you are supposed to manually control the runners. I know you can if you are stealing a base. Like, I know that that's a thing that you can, like, manually initiate. But there was a time, and I wrote it in my notes because it pissed me off so much. There was a time when I hit the ball, and it was a pretty good hit. It was a drive, like, right down in between second and third base. Nobody was getting it on the computer team. So I watched my batter run toward first, and the runner already on first never left the base. And so the batter got to first base. The runner had never left. So by the time the runner on first base actually started to make his way toward second base, they had already tagged him out.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was just something like the game was hiccuping and didn't know what to do, or if I was supposed to manually initiate all of my runners to take their next base, which is bonkers. I don't know why they would make you do that. That should definitely be automatic. But I was just losing my mind when that happened, because it's like you're watching a baseball game, like screaming at your TV, like, run! What are you doing, you fool? Run!
Yeah, I seem to remember that happening a few times, and I don't know exactly, like what this hit was and all of that, but I imagine there is probably some amount of logic for the runners, and maybe this was just the, that logic breaking a little bit, because, so in baseball, if you hit a pop fly, so leaves the bat, doesn't hit the ground, and a fielder catches that before it hits the ground, then the batter is out. That counts as an out. If a runner, and this is one of those things about baseball, when you try to explain it to people who aren't familiar, you realize how kind of intricate the rules are.
Sure.
And people just take it for kind of granted, but
right.
The runner is not allowed to advance. So if you have a runner on first base, they're not allowed to advance until the ball either hits the ground or is caught. So I could see them putting in logic to try and keep your runners from just running in a pop fly, because
Right.
that would also be bad. But then you get into situations like that where it's clear that they should be running.
Oh yeah, this was definitely on the ground. And you know how I can tell you that
Mm-hmm.
it was on the ground? Because anytime I hit a pop fly, the computer knew exactly where to stand to catch it and get me out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was never a time that the ball left the bat and didn't touch the ground that I was not able to just sit there and watch the computer player stand with his little gloves stuck straight up in the air, waiting for the ball to fall right into it. They don't need a camera. They know exactly where they need to be. So the computer was just standing there like, yep, here it comes. All right, you're out.
Yeah, and that was another thing I found clunky about the fielding is for pop flies, it felt like you almost had to let the automatic fielding do it, because if you tried to run and it felt like if you were not like exactly where it wanted you to be, you wouldn't catch it.
Mm-hmm.
So letting the auto fielder field pop flies but then not field anything else was another kind of like clunky thing that you had to kind of decide, and it all in all was not super super fun.
You couldn't do anything to make it feel more dynamic, which was really aggravating because I know I'm not like super into baseball, but I definitely played backyard baseball, when I was a kid outside, like street baseball in my neighborhood growing up. So like I know baseball, I watched baseball, I had family that was in baseball. Obviously you played baseball when we were kids.
Yep.
But like I know that one of the things about baseball that makes it something people want to watch are the moments where the unexpected happens, because like you said, baseball can be kind of boring.
Mm-hmm.
If it's just the same thing happening every time and exactly, oh, this team is going to hit this and they're going to win, they've got stronger players, whatever. It's the unexpected stuff that makes for the best moments, and you couldn't do anything to kind of force those moments to happen. Players could slide into a base,
Mm-hmm.
but you couldn't manually force a slide. Like, the most hype moment for me when I was playing was when I got a double play out.
Yeah.
Like, I managed to not catch it. I didn't catch a pop fly, but they hit the ball down the line. I don't remember what part of the field they hit it to, but I manually controlled the outfielder. I picked up the ball, I slung it right to second base, and I got them out. And then I threw it from there to first base, and I got them out too. And I was elated. I was like, F yeah, double play,
Yeah.
jerks. Like, that's what it's about. But like, those sorts of things happened so few and far between for me, but it felt like they were always happening for the computer. The computer was always able to catch my pop flies. It was always, even if I thought a ball was a foul, the computer was always able to get it. They would catch my runners no matter what base I was on. In the entire time that I played, I didn't score a single run.
Yeah, baseball is a very slow and repetitive game with extremely awesome moments, I would say.
Right, that's what it feels like.
Baseball highlight reels are awesome. You have people, scaling the fence to rob a home run. You have, people diving and making insane plays. This game definitely didn't have any of that. Even the home run felt boring. It was that same slow pop fly animation with the camera slowly following the ball out to the outfield, and then it went home run, yay, and that was it. It wasn't exciting at all, and I don't know. It's a little amazing to me how clunky and slow and just not fun this game felt.
I didn't get any home runs. Obviously, I said I didn't score any runs at all, but I didn't get any home runs. The computer also never got any home runs. But even if they had, I would rather the home run be like a special animation. You're not going to catch it anyway. It's out of the stadium. Home run, you don't have a chance to catch it. I would not mind at all in that instance if there was just some kind of fanfare. It's just like you're not going to get to it anyway.
Yeah.
It's a home run. Ooh, yeah, home run. Okay, like I understand it's on the computer team, but if it's not going to happen all of the time anyway, why not take advantage of the fact that it's another kind of hype moment that you can build on, to build excitement, to make the game feel more alive in that way. Oh no, it's a home run. Well, I'm just watching the ball travel the same slow speed, except instead of hitting the ground and then at least I get to pick it up and keep the game going, you're just watching it go all the way out of the stadium entirely or whatever, and then they play the fanfare.
Yeah, I agree. The last thing I did want to bring up, which I think we've made our opinions known on this, but one thing that I noticed on this, and I noticed tennis when you switch sides and a few things like that, they have these really kind of slow screens. I don't know if they're loading screens or what, but you know, for baseball specifically, aside from everything being slow, when you switch sides, so when you go from the batting team to the pitching team, you watch as the pitcher kind of like runs out to the mound, and it feels like a loading screen to me, but I don't know why they would add that.
I mean, as slow as it is, I do have to say that the actual pitching and batting felt pretty good. I mean, apart from like not really knowing where you were going to be able to hit the ball, not having any control over like specialty pitching, never being able to figure out how to do a bunt or anything like that. Even all of those things aside, just on a base level, the slowdown and the sluggish nature of the game overall didn't feel as bad during the pitching batting. And then as soon as you hit the ball, it was like, you know, someone just flipped a switch and put everything in slow-mo.
Exactly. But I think that's all that I have for the mechanics. I think we, like I said, we've definitely made it clear our struggles with it.
Yes, I think we have eviscerated this one enough. Yes.
All right. So with that, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with a little bit of discussion about the creative side.
Ad break time.
All right, Tony. Let's try to get this in one take. Maybe stay to the script this time? You're live in 3, 2...
A horrible global phenomenon is being reported in the modern era. Children who don't know what a Game Boy is.
I don't think it's that serious.
If you or anyone you know has children suffering from a chronic lack of retro gaming, we recommend subscribing to the Critical DMG podcast. We are experts on the Game Boy.
I'm absolutely not.
And we here at Critical DMG will ensure that everyone knows about the Game Boy, whether they're young or old, pro or noob.
Does anyone say noob anymore?
So don't wait. Share this podcast with your friends and loved ones that have kids, your coworkers, their kids, your board game group's kids. Spread the word. Play it out the windows of your car in the elementary school drop-off lane.
Please don't do that last one.
With your help, we can work to undo the damages of time and make everybody appreciate the Game Boy. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, that last part's pretty good.
You know, the original Game Boy might not have been internet connected, but we sure are. So if you'd like to reach out to us, you could find us on Blue Sky at criticaldmgpod.bsky.social, or you could email us at criticaldmgpod@gmail.com, and either of those will get to us faster than you would expect for people who are stuck on tech from the 1990s. We are back, and as you all know from previously listening, and if this is your first episode, thank you for joining us. But wow, what an episode to join us on, actually. I'm just now thinking about that. What a one to come in on.
We're usually a lot more positive than this, I promise.
That's only half true. Jeff might be a little more positive, but anyway, this is a section where we talk about the creative and the aesthetic stuff, sound, music, sprites, all that good stuff. There are 2 modes in this game, USA mode and Japan mode. Did you play both of them?
No, I only played the USA mode. As far as I can tell, there's no real difference. There's slight difference on the teams and I guess like how it's displayed a little bit. US uses miles per hour versus the Japan mode uses kilometers per hour, I would assume. So yeah, I didn't feel like it was enough of a difference for to play both.
Okay, so there is some slight mechanical stuff. Like you said, there's the miles per hour versus kilometers per hour. I think it was in the manual. I don't have it in front of me to corroborate, but I think it was in the manual that they do say something about the team or the teams on the Japanese mode focus on slower pitches, like slower pitching speed overall versus the USA team.
Yeah.
But that's mechanical stuff. We already moved past that. The reason that I asked is because the big thing about the difference between the USA mode and the Japanese mode is that the music is different.
Yes. Yeah, I saw that as well. And the names and all of that.
Yes. Like all the player names are different. The music is different. And I have to say, if you didn't play the Japanese mode, you only played the US League mode or whatever, the USA music is bad. I don't know how you feel about that.
That was my note. Yeah. No, it was not good. I turned it off.
Yes, it is extremely repetitive. I like the little it's not take me out to the ball game that they play when the game like starts. It is just a little jingle. I want to say it's a famous tune. I just can't pull it out of my brain about which one it is, but
yeah,
it is a cute song. I do like the little jingle at the beginning, but the USA music that plays the entire time you are actually playing the baseball game is awful.
That's actually why I played a half game, because I started with the music on, and then by like the third or fourth inning, I was like, I have to turn this off, and you have to restart to turn it off. So, yeah, that's what I did. I don't know why in the title screen or the menu screen they had it as BGM, like background music, but I kind of thought, like, why not just say music? Why use an acronym when you could just say music?
I don't know. I think it might just be that it's early enough that maybe they hadn't standardized that yet, because in the tennis one it is just music. Like it just says music. Another note that I had is that it was really kind of weird that there's no sound or music at all in the start of the game at the title menu. It's just totally silent.
I had that as well.
Yeah, it was very, very strange. And then you go from totally silent to a really short, irritating. I mean, to its credit, I will say that the USA music does sound like baseball music. You know, like it does sound like cheesy. Someone's playing a Cracker Jack organ, and this is the music that they're playing, you know, for the old ball game. That doesn't mean that it's good. And I was very happy to not have to be listening to it anymore. The Japanese music is not that. I don't know if the loop is longer. I would have to actually check like side by side, but it is nowhere near as just overwhelmingly like insipid as the USA music was.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I would definitely not recommend that you go back and play just to find out, but if I had to choose, the Japanese music is absolutely the one I would have gone with.
Okay, that's good to know.
I really don't have a whole lot to say about the creative side of this game. There's just not a whole lot here. Even the Mario inclusion is just nothing. The fact that Mario and Luigi are player character names, like, okay, big whoop.
Yeah, it's name only.
At least tennis had umpire Mario.
Yeah, there's absolutely no difference in the sprites or anything like that. It's just you can select Mario and Luigi, and that's it. It's just their names. Seems like a very low effort inclusion there, but I guess maybe doing a custom sprite would be too difficult or something, but
I wouldn't have even minded if all of your players were Mario.
Yeah.
You know, if it was just a team of Marios, and who cares if they all have different names? You're the Nintendo Marios or the Nintendo Bowsers or whatever. Like, I would have been more okay with that than what you get. Because the sprites are so small, there is basically zero distinction between one team and the next. Like, yeah, okay, you can play as the White Bears or the Red Eagles, but you never get any kind of differentiation between them. They don't look any different in their uniforms or anything. It's just kind of like one is dark, one is light.
Yeah, exactly. That's the difference, is one has a white jersey, one has, I guess it's black. Maybe it's supposed to be red. I don't know. But that's the only difference. Aside from that, all the players look exactly the same. And even though, yeah, you can select Mario and Luigi, it doesn't really matter. So that's a little bit of a bummer there.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that they were at least including right hand and left hand batters. So like, oh, okay, you know, this one's going to be on the right hand side of the plate, this one's going to be on the left hand side of the plate or whatever. But like, again, it's like big whoop.
Yeah.
You know, without going back into the mechanics of the game, again, you don't have any control over your technique or control of the ball or anything like that based on, oh, well, I would rather be a left-handed batter right now because I know that this team or whatever has a pitcher that's going to XYZ. So if I play as a left-handed batter, then I'll be able to do a stronger hit. Like there's no metagaming or anything like that at all. So everything just fell flat. Again, I don't want to rehash too much of the mechanics stuff, but unfortunately with this particular game, there's, I mean, nothing really to talk about.
Yeah.
As far as, I mean, the sound is serviceable, you know, it's what you would expect. At least in tennis, I was able to pick those sounds out and highlight them, even though they were pretty unremarkable, because I was not as frustrated and everything else about the presentation of tennis was not as bland. This one, it really feels like we don't have much to talk about beyond the mechanics of it because there just isn't really anything here.
Yeah, I mean, I did like, you know, kind of that transition screen that we were talking about. I did like, you know, once the pitcher ran out and all the guys would kind of like lift their hands up. I thought that was kind of cute. I did like the ball sprite. If you hit a really high pop fly, you could actually like see the seams on the baseball.
Oh, no way. I never had that happen.
Yeah. If you hit, I guess a high enough pop fly, it would transition from just being, you know, the few pixel black ball to actually being able to see the little seams, and it would rotate. So I also thought that was like kind of a nice touch. But aside from that, yeah, not a whole lot there. I think they did a decent job with displaying the information.
Yes, it was readable. It was understandable. I never had a time where I was like, who's up by how many? You know, is it a ball or a strike? I liked the UI. I thought the fact that they decided to show like the strike count as little baseballs, very cute. I liked at the end, even though I lost, I still thought it was pretty funny that when you do lose, someone from the crowd throws like a beer can at one of your players and like their hat goes down over their eyes. I thought that was very charming.
Yeah, I was kind of just sitting there after the game and, you know, obviously just thinking about what I had just done. And yeah, I saw that and I was like, wait, is he throwing trash at my player? And
yes, they're like throwing a can, like, oh, you bum.
Yeah, I think it did have some nice, nice aspects as far as that, even though it is pretty bland. There isn't a whole lot of extra stuff thrown in. The Mario and Luigi inclusions are just names, which again felt lazy, but
it feels even worse because Mario is literally on the box.
Yeah.
Like he's on the cover of the box throwing the pitch.
Yeah. Again, that was just a little bit disappointing, but they definitely had some, I don't know, some cute little things in there. And I mean, the aesthetics, I would say, aside from the music, were infinitely better than the gameplay. So at least there's that.
I will say, because I'm pretty sure that I am ready to wrap up this section, even though it was a lot shorter than the mechanical section. I will say, because of how bad this game was, I am hopeful that it will only go up from here as far as baseball games go. Like, I can promise this is probably not going to be the worst game that we're going to play on this entire journey that we're on, but maybe it will be the worst baseball game that we'll play. Maybe as we go along, the baseball games will get better mechanically and aesthetically, and just overall, this will be the bottom rung of the ladder, and we will step up and up and up as we go. That's my hope anyway.
I guess, yeah, solid silver lining, but I hope that's true.
Trying to keep it positive. We ripped this game to shreds in the previous section. I am hoping to end on a positive note.
All right. Yeah, that's fair. I can't imagine a baseball game that is worse than this, but I guess we'll see.
I feel like I would have liked it better if it was just batting cage practice.
Yeah, the pitching and the batting were fine. The fielding is really what made it bad. But we already talked about that.
Right. Okay. All right. So anything else about the creative stuff before we move on to my favorite part of the episode?
I don't have anything about the creative section. I did, typically if we both agree on our ratings on if someone should play it, we don't necessarily circle back, but I did want to circle back because obviously by how we've been talking, we both said no to this one. We both said no to tennis.
Yes.
Tennis, I had fun playing. It was, it wasn't the most enjoyable, but at no point was I really like, this is bad. This was bad. I wouldn't suggest someone to go play tennis, but if you have the option, go for it. This game you should actively avoid. Is kind of like my take.
I completely agree. It's funny that you say that. I actually went back and played tennis again. Just for a short amount of time after this one to remind myself about just how bad this was, because I went back to tennis and I still didn't do great. I didn't play for very long, just for a few minutes, and I still didn't do great. But even at the lowest setting, when I just jumped into difficulty 1, I was doing volleys and actively scoring against the computer, and it was leaps and bounds better than this. So we are absolutely at the bottom of the same page. If you were going to go back and play one of the launch titles for the Game Boy based on sports in the US, tennis over baseball, hands down.
That extremely specific itch that you're looking for. I want to play a Game Boy release title that is a sport game.
No. The reason that I say that, and this is important because we are only covering the NTSC releases here on this show. In Japan, they did get other games that we didn't. So there's a golf game that we don't get. Maybe the golf one is pretty good. I don't know. But as far as the ones that we got and that we will be covering here on Critical DMG, I would absolutely put my quarter on tennis before I ever put it on baseball.
100%. All right, that's the last thing I have. We can move on to your favorite section.
Yes, it's quiz time.
All right, so I'm currently sitting at 66%. Oof. So hopefully we get that up a little bit today.
Okay, so we went over this last time. You were at a C. You were at a C level. 66 is firmly a D. So we're gonna need to get that up.
Yeah, I need 3 of 3 correct today to increase that. So
remember, I remain completely impartial, objective the entire time.
Yeah, if any quiz I do well on, it should be baseball, but we'll see what you cooked up today. I have a feeling it's not just typical baseball questions. We
shall see. All right, are you ready for question 1?
Let's do it.
Okay. Baseball quiz. Question 1. The Japanese video game magazine Famicom Tsushin, or Famitsu, is known for its cumulative style of scoring system that it gives to the games that it reviews. So the way that it works usually is multiple critics will all give their own scores for whatever the game that they're talking about, and then all those scores get added together to make the total score value. So whether it's out of 30 or 40, whatever the total score is the score that gets assigned to the game that they're reviewing. So this means that there can be some pretty low lows including the score that this game got in the Famitsu 1989 end of the year rating issue. While it wasn't rock bottom,
shocked.
It was not rock bottom. What was the low score that it got that year? Was it 14 out of 30, 16 out of 30, 18 out of 30, or 20 out of 30?
Yeah, this is going to be a pure guess. 14 is... I feel like 14 is pretty generous, but yeah, we'll say 14A final answer. If it's anything higher, they're just wrong. So,
well, unfortunately, you're wrong. It was B, 16 out of 30.
Oh, over 50%. That's not... I think that's incorrect, but anyway, okay.
Well, baseball was Famitsu's lowest scoring Game Boy title out of their entire launch lineup in Japan that year.
I mean, checks out.
Most of the games didn't do a whole lot better. Tetris was the highest. It got 25 out of 30. And then Super Mario Land was next with, I think, something like a 22 out of 30. But baseball was the lowest with 16 out of 30.
All right, well, there goes my shot at increasing my percentage. Let's try and at least keep it.
Oh, no.
Let's try to keep it the same at least. So the next two right.
Okay, question 2. The player names in this game's Japanese mode are not one-for-one copies of real players. They actually represent mixed up or slightly shifted names from across Japanese baseball history. So some of those players were still playing the game when this baseball game came out. And so some of their teams are actually still around. Not all of them, though. Which of the following teams were not in the league when baseball on the Game Boy came out? A, the Yomiuri Giants. B, the Seibu Lions. C, the Oryx Buffaloes. Or D, the Hanshin Tigers.
This quiz is not looking good for me. I'm going to say C, the Buffaloes. I don't know why.
Final answer C.
Yes.
It's C.
Let's go.
The Oryx Buffaloes are a real team.
Okay.
But they're much more recent than the rest of the ones on this list. They're actually a combination of two teams. The Oryx Blue Wave from Kobe and the Osaka Kintetsu Buffaloes from Osaka. The new combined version, being the Oryx Buffaloes, didn't actually begin playing until 2005. And so they split their home games between their two home cities.
Yeah. The more you know.
Right?
See, mainly I was like, I don't know if there are buffalo in Japan. So I was like, that seems like the answer. But I guess there are, at least enough to have a baseball team.
I learned a lot about Japanese baseball that I did not originally know when doing research for this quiz. Full disclosure, I tend to go to Google Japan for background information and other stuff if I really can't find anything for like the quiz or other opinions or consensus on background information or things like that. So there was a lot of Japanese baseball knowledge gleaned from the research this time around.
Got it. Yeah, there was not a whole lot about this game. Right.
Yeah, there was definitely not. Okay. So you're 1-1. Ready for question 3?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. The USA mode teams have full rosters of really very unassuming player names across the board, at least apart from the special inclusion of Luigi and Mario. Even still, none of those player names get repeated on the other team. Which of these is not a name for a player on either two teams in baseball's USA mode? Is it A, Roy, B, David, C, Bob, or D, Jeff?
I know I'm on the Luigi team because that is the team I played and I saw me.
You're famous. You're baseball famous.
I am baseball famous. I'm going to say Bob, C. I feel like I remember a David and I could see Roy being on there.
Final answer C. Or are you changing your mind?
Yes. Yeah, I'm going with C.
It's A.
Dang it. All right.
There is not a single Roy in the whole roster. There is a David and a Bob and a Jeff, and there's even a Jim and a Jimmy on the same team.
Ooh.
But no Roy.
Dang. Yeah, I have the manual open, but I refrained from looking. So
Oh, see, you could have read the manual and just not told me.
I could have, but I have academic. Well, that's not exactly true. But I have academic integrity when it comes to our little quizzes.
Yes, we are laced with integrity here at Critical DMG. We would never stoop so low.
All right. Well, that bumped me down to 60%, so that's not great, but
it's okay. We'll do better in the next one.
Hopefully next week.
Castlevania, you'll breeze through that quiz. You watch.
Crush it.
Okay, so that's it for you.
All right. So what's our listener quiz? Yeah.
Audience question. For those of you playing the home game version of Critical DMG's quiz, the game will not just run forever. I found that out the hard way, or maybe the easy way. If things get swept too bad for either team, the game will end. Extra innings for ties go until the 10th inning, but how many points in score difference needs to happen before the game will end in a blowout and be called early?
Oh, I feel like the last two quiz questions for the audience I would have crushed. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know this one, but we'll find out next week.
I knew this one because this is how my game ended the first time.
I was wondering, the 20 minutes seemed quick, but that explains it.
20 minutes was all they got out of me for this one.
That's fair. That's fair. Thanks for listening to Critical DMG. If you would like to support us further, please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts and maybe recommend us to your friends or anyone else you know who might like the show. It really helps us out, and we really appreciate it. Well, I think that brings us to the end. Join us next week when we'll be talking about Castlevania.
Ooh, it's time to break out the whip.
Get some crucifixes and hit some candles.
All right, take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.